happy occasion, such as a wedding, important cultural date, or when your national sports team wins a game, what could be more appropriate than taking out your Kalashnikov rifle and squeezing off a few rounds into the night sky? Depending on where you're watching this, celebratory gunfire could be something approaching an everyday occurrence. It's a release, a noisy way to demonstrate joy, and an excuse to put your favourite firearm to good use. For many, it's just cracking good fun. But there's a catch. Nowhere is the adage "what goes up must come down" more appropriate, nor is it more suitable and advisory to keep your friends, relatives and fellow members of the public alive. The problem, as the majority of us understand, is that a bullet fired into the air does not go sailing off into space to become embedded harmlessly in a passing comet, but having reached its highest point, gravity takes firm hold and brings it back to Earth, reaching terminal velocity before thudding into whatever happens to be in the way. Terminal velocity is the top speed of a falling object, and it differs from thing to thing. At just 6.4 kilometers per hour, an ant's terminal velocity is considerably slower than a human's, which is a big part of the reason why an ant can survive any fall and you and I cannot. A 9mm round fired directly upwards from a pistol will rise only about 4,000 feet or 1,250 metres into the air, coming down at a speed of between 100 and 120 miles per hour, coincidentally about the same speed as a falling human. A bigger bullet, say 30 caliber, fired from a rifle, might reach 10,000 feet or so before coming down at 300 feet per second or just over 200 miles per hour. A falling 50 caliber round has a top speed of 500 feet per second, more than 340 miles per hour. Now these figures might change depending on the nature of the bullet and environmental conditions, as well as by the fact that they tend to tumble end over end as opposed to a more aerodynamic nose-first orientation. But, needless to say, a substantial piece of metal earthbound at high speed poses a lethal threat to anyone unfortunate enough to be standing beneath it. This is particularly true of a bullet fired upwards at an angle, not vertically, because it retains more of its velocity on the downward curve and it doesn't spin. And so it goes that dozens, perhaps hundreds of people are killed and injured every year by a combination of desperate bad luck on their part and unfathomable stupidity on the part of the person pulling the trigger. Shots fired. A major reason why falling bullets are so lethal is not their velocity, which is a lot slower than bullets fired conventionally, but their trajectory. When they hit people, rounds from above tend to fall on the head or the upper body. Research at one Los Angeles hospital carried out in 1994 and involving a relatively small sample size of 118 patients revealed that falling bullets have a mortality rate of just under a third. That compares to a rate of only about 5% mortality for general gunshot admissions when the patient arrives with a heartbeat. The Swiss-based Small Arms Survey, meanwhile, worked out that celebratory gunfire accounts for about 1 in 20 stray bullet injuries in the US. But the problem is even worse outside of the States, particularly in parts of South Asia, the Middle East and Eastern Europe, where guns combine with culture to create mayhem. When in 2013 Iraq progressed to the semi-finals of the Under-20s Football World Cup, the ensuing volley of gunfire caused more than 20 injuries and at least 4 deaths. In September 2021, Reuters reported that at least 17 people were killed and 41 injured in celebrations after the Taliban seized control of the Panjshir Valley in Afghanistan from extreme Islamist groups following the withdrawal of US forces. A celebratory shooting at a wedding in 2016 in Karnal, India, resulted in the death of the groom's aunt, as well as injuries to other relatives. In Lebanon, where celebratory gunfire is commonplace, planes are routinely holed accidentally by free fire, including in January, where 2 new Airbus A321neo aircraft taxiing at Beirut Airport were hit during New Year's celebrations. Responding to the incident at the time, Middle East Airlines chairman Mohammed Al-Hout told Reuters that 7 or 8 stationary planes are hit every year by stray bullets fired from neighbouring areas. Europe is by no means immune. When a Montenegro Airlines plane was shot while landing at Podgorica Airport, an investigation concluded that it could have resulted from a stray bullet fired from an Orthodox Christmas celebration. There were no injuries, and thankfully the plane landed safely. Add these examples, and many more, to a litany of near misses, property damage and non-human victims, and the scale of the problem becomes eye-wateringly clear. Can't we stop it? A good question. Why would people play a game of regional Russian roulette with the general populace? It seems like an easy enough problem to fix, but for a host of reasons, it isn't. For one thing, cheerful free fire is embedded in the cultural norms of a host of countries. From Latin America to the Balkans, the practice has been going on for decades, and in some cases centuries, as it's passed down from generation to generation. In particular, firing guns at weddings signifies anything from joyful celebration to hubristic displays of strength and power. In some cultures, firing guns is believed wrongly perhaps, to bring good luck and prosperity to newlyweds. It can ward off evil spirits, protect the couple from harm, ironically perhaps, and ensure a successful and fruitful marriage. Even in countries where gun ownership is severely restricted, coronations, military funerals and state events are often marked with gun salutes or cannon blasts, the subtle difference being that in these cases they're firing blanks. In short, the practice of celebratory gunfire is as old as gunpowder and can be traced back to various cultures and religions throughout history, intimately tied up with everything from expressions of freedom to getting rid of supernatural nasties. The fact that it perpetuates is not for want of people trying to stop it. Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, has repeatedly called on his supporters to suspend happy firing during his speeches, more recently threatening culprits with expulsion from the party. But in 2013, when he first cautioned against the practice, followers fired into the air in exuberant agreement. Educational campaigns were deemed necessary in Serbia and Montenegro, leading with the slogan, "Every bullet fired up must come down." In the US, incidents of celebratory gunfire are on the decline, particularly in states such as Texas, where the practice has been relatively commonplace during national holidays, including New Year's and the 4th of July celebrations. Yet the authorities in places like Houston and Dallas still routinely remind citizens of the penalties for ignoring sanctions on aerial firing. The law. As might be expected, the practice of firing ammunition wildly into the heavens is generally frowned upon by legal institutions the world over, but the level of criminality attached to it and the penalties vary, sometimes even within countries and between local jurisdictions. Some countries have specific laws targeting the practice, while in others it's parcelled into broader definitions of reckless endangerment and firearm misuse. In Houston, people caught firing into the sky face a $4,000 fine and a year in prison. If someone is hit, then a murder rap is on the cards. In California, you could face 3 years behind bars even if no one gets hurt. The penalty is stiffer in North Macedonia, where perpetrators face a decade inside, but far leaner, surprisingly, in Italy, where firing without permission close to an inhabited space will land you a fine of just over €100. In Pakistan, misusing a firearm in this way is covered by Section 144 of the Penal Code, but incidents are rarely reported to the police. If there's a moral to this story, then perhaps it's this. If you're going to fire a gun, make sure you intend to hit something. Maybe not. So that's it. Please do hit that like button and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. It all helps enormously. Also check out the other stuff we've got, including investigations into mysterious footprints in the snow and the reason we all see ghosts. Most importantly, thanks for watching. See you soon.